Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Bruce Den. My name is Whitney, and I have a Throwback Thursday for you guys today. We just read The Double Diamond Dude Ranch by Louise Ladd. There are 8 books in this series. I only have 6 of them, and I thought I was missing number 5, book number 5, but that actually ended up not being the case. There was actually a mistake made when they published these books, so I will talk about that in a second. But yeah, overall, I thought the series was pretty enjoyable. And there was a few things I had a problem with, which I will talk about as they kind of arise. A big one I noticed though was whoever the editors were didn't pay a lot of attention to the detail. Like there was a lot of mistakes in the editing, a word left out or a word added. I there was one point where it was ing was added to 2 words and it should have only been the second word, and little things like that. And then obviously the mistake when they were publishing the books, that was kind of a big one. But again, that's more on the publishers than the author themselves. So, but it kind of made for a sour experience, and I was kind of blaming the author herself because the books go in sequential order. So it starts in the summertime and then moves into the fall, and that was really, really frustrating for me when I was reading the book that was out of order. But overall, I thought this was a good series. I think there's kind of points that come up which I really enjoyed. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about them. The overall premise is you're following this girl, Chris, and she lives on a dude ranch. And so you're just kind of following her adventures. And then she also has a horse who's in foal to a wild Mustang, so that's kind of a main thing that goes along the horses progressing in her pregnancy, and Chris is very concerned for her horse. And so that comes up in the books over and over again and is mentioned, okay, she's this far along now. She's getting closer to foaling and everything like that. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about each book individually. The first book is called Call Me Just Plain Chris. Her father always introduces her as Crystal, which of course is her name, but she prefers to go by Chris. So in this one, you're just meeting the characters essentially. It's just laying down the foundation for them. So you have Chris and her best friend Drew. Chris is 11 going into 6th grade. Drew is 12 going into 7th grade. And so he's getting a little bit older and he's hanging out with his boys more and doesn't want Chris hanging out with them. And Chris used to hang out with them. She's kind of more of a tomboy, and so she hung out with them all, but they're just kind of excluding her now that they're getting a little older. They're going into 7th grade, and she learns, it's because they're talking about girls now. Like she overhears a conversation, and they're talking about all the girls in school. So the main kind of plot is her, trying to adjust to the change because they're getting older now, and so there is kind of that separation between her and Drew, who grew up together since they were in diapers. And so it's kind of that adjustment. And she ends up meeting Serena, who's kind of new to town. She moved in, and she lives, she's essentially their neighbor, lives just down the mountain at a different ranch. But Serena's really quiet. Like she moved and started school like the last month of school before summer started, and was just really quiet. Nobody really took note of her. So Chris decides, well, I don't have, any other friends to hang out with. She's friendly with the girls in school, but she's not close friends with them because they're not as into horses and such as she is, and all they want to talk about is boys and such. So she ends up making friends with Serena, and there's a secondary plot line because Serena is scared of horses, and so Chris decides she's going to kind of get Serena over that fear of horses. So overall, I thought this was pretty enjoyable, and it does lay the foundation nicely for the series. It really introduces the characters and everything like that. The second book in the series is called The Wrangler Secret, which is book number 2 in the series. In this one, you have a new Wrangler, Jamie, and he's really good with the guests, he's good with the horses and everything, but he makes these little mistakes that can be costly. At first it's very small mistakes, and it's just kind of like, well, we were rushed or whatever. But it ends up he makes a mistake and puts Chris's horse, who's pregnant, at risk. And that kind of brings to light, what's going on with him. And the secondary plot line is Drew wants a puppy. He fell in love with this puppy. One of his friends' dogs had puppies, and he absolutely fell in love with this puppy. But his dad recently lost his old sheepdog, and so he doesn't want any more dogs on the ranch at all. And so that's kind of the secondary plot line, is how can we get Drew to have this puppy. And so yeah, I thought overall this one was pretty cute, pretty enjoyable. I do like, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but Jamie, the reason he's making all these mistakes is because he can't read because he's dyslexic. And so I really kind of like another one of my horse books from childhood did that and highlighted that as well. And I really think it's nice because some kids do really struggle, and it's not that you're stupid or dumb or anything, it's that you're dyslexic. And he's an adult, and it's highlighting that. So I really, really like that. And I marked 2 pages in this one. The first one kind of goes back to Chris's backstory and everything. And so she's talking to her mom. Her mom doesn't live on the ranch with them. She left when Chris was 6 to go pursue her dream to be a country music star. And so Chris lives on the ranch with her father. And I really like this because I think a lot of times people can be really judgmental and have an idea of what a good mother is or what a good family life is and everything like that. And it's not the same for everyone. So in this one, it says, after mom left the ranch, I guess you could say I grieved for her for quite a while. That was before I realized I didn't have to have a mother in the house as long as I had a mother who cared about me as much as she did. And I really, really liked that line. And I just thought it showed, like, family is subjective. Like, as long as you're happy and the love's there, it doesn't matter what your family looks like. And she also has 3 women role models which come up throughout the book. She has Red Wing, who's more like a grandmother figure for her, who's the cook. You have Anna, who's Drew's mom, that kind of fills that motherly role. And then you also have Maggie, the head wrangler, that Chris can go to if she has a problem or anything like that. So just because her mother's there doesn't mean she's not healthy and happy and thriving. And she still has a mom that cares about her deeply. And so I really, really liked that being pointed out. And then it does come up, like I said, throughout the books as well. And then the next line I marked is Chris is very upset because Jamie put Belle at risk, and she's yelling at him, "How can you be so stupid?" I shouted, "What's the matter with you? How could you be so dumb?" And obviously, she was angry and such, and she didn't mean it, but it just is showing that your words have power, and they can cut deep because Jamie has a secret, and you don't know what's going on with somebody. So be careful with your words, because when kind of Jamie's dyslexia comes to light, he getting upset, "I'm not dumb, I'm not stupid." So like those words had to cut him deep. And so I just really liked that line as well, and just kind of how it tied in to the rest of the book. The next one is Prize Winning Horse Maybe, which is book 3. In this one, Chris is she's wanting to race in a local race to win the prize money because her vet bills are stacking up, and her money as junior wrangler just isn't quite cutting it. And so that's the whole premise of the book, is she's trying to make sure Belle's able to race and then get her ready for the race. Well, something happens, and it ties in to kind of a little bit of a secondary plot line. There's somebody's kind of been riding like dirt bikes in the wildlife reserve area. And so they're trying to figure out what's going on there, kind of keeping an eye out. And they end up canceling trail rides. in that area for a while, but then they don't hear any bikers, and so they end up going on a trail ride, and something happens, and it injures Belle, and so then there's the whole, well, is Belle going to be ready to race? And then also Chris now has to identify, she recognizes the kids, and so she ends up going to court. And this is where one of the first problems comes up for me when she goes to court. Obviously this kid isn't a likable character, but the author uses his looks and such to drive home that he's not likable. And I really, really dislike when authors do that. And she does it again in one of the other books. And so, Chris is on the stand and she's like, I have an idea, for how you can punish him, judge, if you want to hear me. And so she's like, he's fat and he's lazy. Instead of saying, well, he's, you could say he's lazy and he doesn't like hard work, but she goes, he's fat. And when she recognizes him, well, I recognize his fat face. And I just really, really dislike that. And then there's also kind of another plot line. Um, and it's her dad is kind of befriending this widow that's been a regular at the ranch for years. They're getting really, really close, and Chris doesn't know how to feel about that because she genuinely likes Mrs. Morris, is the character's name, but then she's having all these feelings, because this is her dad, and it's always been just the two of them, since her mom left and everything like that. And so she's talking to Serena about it, and she's like saying, isn't that the dumbest thing you ever heard? Like, why wouldn't I want my dad to be happy? And I do like Miss Morris, and she makes him happy, so why wouldn't I want him to be happy? And Serena says, no, it's not the dumbest. It's probably the most honest thing I've ever heard. That's what I like about you, Chris. You never mess around, you tell it like it is, even stuff that's hard to deal with. And so I really like that whole section because it is like your feelings are your feelings, even when they're not necessarily rational. And so you kind of gotta process that and be honest about that, even when it's not rational. And so yeah, overall this one was pretty cute. Probably not my favorite, but I did find it enjoyable. And so yeah, that's book number 3. Then book number 4 is called The Perfect Horse, and in this one, Serena is ready to have her own horse now. She's progressed enough as a rider, gotten over her fear. She's ready to have her own horse. And she's really, really stuck on getting a Palomino horse. And everybody's cautioning her, don't get stuck on color, look at the horse's character and whatnot. And they end up finding this Palomino horse at auction. There's only 2 Palominos in the group. One is really old and everything like that, so they know, like, nope, he's not the horse. But this one's the right age range, and he's standing calmly. He looks okay, and he's really skinny. Um, and so Chris's dad is kind of cautioning Serena's family, like, don't rush in. Like, this horse almost seems too good to be true. Like, we shouldn't rush into this. But Serena just has her heart set on this horse. He's a Palomino. He's the right age, yada, yada, yada. And so she doesn't want to be cautious. And then her dad kind of gets caught up on that and ends up bidding, over Serena's amount that she had. She only had 500, and he keeps bidding, just going to cover the rest. And so she ends up with this horse. Well, they get it home and they realize, the reason the guy that was selling this horse is from Canada, so he's not local, and he had this specific horse out and was grooming him. Well, Chris's dad's like, I should have realized this sooner, but it's an old trick. Like, you take out the horse and ride him long enough, he's gonna appear quiet, and then you groom him so you get rid of any signs that he was ridden hard. Um, and then he's skinny, so he obviously was keeping him a little bit underweight, so he didn't have as much energy. And so anyway, that ends up, this horse is too much for Serena, and so they're trying to convince her to buy the horse she's been riding from the Dude Ranch, Eagle, because they were planning on selling him anyway because he's a little bit too advanced for the beginner riders, but he's too tame for the more advanced riders. But he's the perfect for Serena, but he's in Appaloosa and she doesn't like how he looks and everything like that. And so that's kind of the main plot line. And then you kind of have a secondary plot line of Chris, they're back in school now, and Chris is really struggling balancing her homework and her responsibilities on the dude ranch and everything like that. So that's kind of the secondary plot line. But this one I think was one of my favorites. I thought it was really cute and really enjoyable, and I did really like it. The next one, which I thought I was missing number 5, and so it jumps to number 6. And this one is called Rodeo. And this one actually ties in really nicely with number 4, even though it's a book out. Because also, number 4, Mrs. Morris, who was the character her dad's interested in from book 3, sends Chris a dressage saddle because she found it at an estate sale or something like that. And she just like, I know this isn't the normal style you ride in, but I think it was just too good of a deal to pass up, and so I want you to have this. And so it ties in, not only Dandy, who was bought in book number 4, but the saddle that Chris got as well. So the main plot line is there's this rodeo, and there's this new girl in school who's kind of snobby and just brags about how good she and her horse are, and that they're going to win the rodeo. And so Chris is like dying to win this rodeo, but she can't ride Belle because Belle is too far along in her pregnancy now. And so she wants to ride Dandy because they've already shipped off most of the Dude Ranch horses for the winter. And so there's just a handful left, and none of them are fast enough to be able to win the barrel racing competition other than Dandy. And so she's trying to convince her dad to let her ride Dandy, but he's a lot of horse and he's not sure it's a good idea. So she's trying to convince him, and something happens, and so then Serena's against her riding Dandy in the rodeo, and so she has Serena all upset with her, and then her dad, who's still kind of on the fence. And so she's trying to work with Dandy, prove she can handle him, and also teach Dandy to behave himself, which I don't know. I really like the whole premise of the book. And then the secondary plot line is she's also learning dressage. So they have another regular Dude Ranch customer that does dressage and teaches dressage. And so um, she can do that with Belle because it's lighter exercise and such. And so she ends up going to be doing a demonstration at the rodeo with this Dude Ranch customer that's teaching her. And so she's all nervous about that because it's not what she's used to and everything like that. And then plus she's trying to repair her friendship with Serena and everything like that. But I thought this one was a lot of fun. This one also has a dislikable character, and the author again goes for how the character looks to make her more dislikable, which I really, again, just do not like. She's a little bit overweight, and then she has frizzy hair, and so they call her Frizzy Lizzie. And I don't know. I really don't like when authors do that. Like, the character was dislikable enough without adding in her looks to it. Um, but yeah, I thought this one was pretty enjoyable as well. And then we come to book 7. So I thought this is actually book number 5, which makes sense because there's things that come up in Rodeo that ended up happening in this book. So this book should have taken place before book number 6. So I didn't know that. I didn't look it up until after I was done reading this, and the whole time I'm reading this, I was like, this just doesn't make sense. Like, um, this should have taken place before, book 6, and it does. This is actually book 5. So when they published it, they made a mistake marking it as book 7. I looked it up. And yeah, this is book 5. So it makes a lot more sense, and I'm not as angry. And obviously, that's not the author's fault. It's whoever published it's fault. And so in this one, you have Chris. She's going to be a stunt double for an actress in a movie, which is being shot, certain scenes are being shot on the Dude Ranch. And so you have Chris, she's kind of struggling again to, because Belle's farther along in her pregnancy, and so she wants to do the stunt double stuff and whatnot, but also, being new to the movie, and then wanting to get her face in the movie because obviously as a stunt double you can't show your face, and then she's also kind of a little bit starstruck by the actor that plays the actresses she's stunt doubling for, that actress's dad in the movie. She's kind of starstruck by him as well. And so she's kind of balancing all that. And then also, you have the movie producer who's a cool guy, but the movie director has his ideas and not taking into account like these are animals we're dealing with, and we do still have a dude ranch to run. So those kind of clash, and you kind of have that balance trying to be achieved. And then there's kind of a secondary plot line. The actress that Chris is stunt doubling for is has like gets really nervous and such before she does a scene. And so Chris is trying to help her, like, what's going on? Why would you act if you get this nervous? Like, it makes her physically ill. And so she kind of tells Chris like something happened, and that's why I'm nervous. And Chris is like, oh, so you just got spooked, because she kind of went through a bad spell where she wasn't getting any gigs and such. And so Chris kind of helps her out as well. And so that's kind of a secondary plot line, is trying to get this actress over her nerves before shooting a scene and such. So overall, I think this one was probably my favorite because it was just a lot of fun. And I liked, how she was starstruck, but based on her character, like, she's also very straightforward and get things done. And so I really liked how this one played out, and how she stood up for her mayor and such, even though the director had other ideas, and it's like, you don't tell the director what to do. She's like, yes, but at the same time, this is my animal, and I'm not going to do something that's going to hurt her, especially with her being in full. So really, really enjoyed this one. Like I said, I definitely think I'm going to go ahead and get the last two, because even reading these as an adult, I really enjoyed these. I liked, because it takes place in Colorado, and that's where I grew up and where I'm from. And so I like the atmosphere of the books. I thought, even though this is obviously aimed for children, I really enjoyed the characters, and I really enjoyed the storylines. I thought they were very well developed for as short as these stories are, and especially for having like double plot lines going, kind of. Like, I just thought these were really, really enjoyable. And so definitely something I'm going to be keeping on my shelf, and I do think I want to get the last two in the series, since there's only two more. Like I said, if it was a longer series, I wouldn't worry about it. But there's only two more. I might as well have the last two. And I think I was looking, and I really want the last two because the seventh one is home for Christmas. So I'm thinking maybe Chris's mom comes home, which I would really like to see that. And then the last one is Belle's Full. So I'm assuming Belle Foals in that one. And so obviously I want to see that because it's kind of been working up to that this whole series. But yeah, I think these are a lot of fun. I think they're really well developed, even with the few issues I had, the little typos, and obviously the big issues of this one being misprinted as book 7 when it's book 5. And then, obviously the issues with the villainized characters being more villainized based on their looks. Um, I thought overall this series was really, really enjoyable. And so definitely a series if you have a horse lover. The main character is 11. She's in 6th grade, and I think you can kind of go either side of that. I think younger readers, these books are short enough and simple enough that they can enjoy them, but they have enough depth and such to them that I think older audiences can enjoy them as well. And like I said, I really enjoyed it as an adult, being a horse lover and growing up in sorry, Adeline wants to say hi, and growing up in Colorado. So, um, yeah, I thought it was pretty enjoyable. If you're a horse lover, I think this is a series. It is, kind of a shorter series, obviously 8 books. Isn't super short, but compared to some of the other horse series, it is. And so, yeah, I definitely say if you're a horse lover, you have a child who's a horse lover, definitely a series that is worth picking up. So we're going to go ahead and leave you here. Say happy reading, everyone. Bye.